Kitco Mining special coverage of the Rural Symposium, Natural Resource Investing, is brought to you by G Mining Ventures.
A serial deal maker and a key figure in the royalties and development space. We are sitting down and talking with Sean Roosen of the Osisko Group. Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining here at the Rural Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida. Sean, welcome to Kitco.
It's really great to be here.
We're really pleased to have you on. A lot of things to talk about. Obviously, the Osisko Group is very well known. You've got several companies. Hopefully, we can dig into each one of those a little bit today. Let's start with Osisko Mining and the Windfall project. That's been the latest real sort of big announcement out of the group. Earlier this year, you announced a joint venture with Gold Fields, which includes a $300 million initial payment. That was in May. I think that surprised many people. What was the thinking behind doing a joint venture rather than perhaps an outright sale with Gold Fields?
Well, shout out to John Brzezinski, who's the chairman and the CEO of the company. He's done an exceptional job. He drilled off the resource there, over 2 million meters of drilling into the project. Outlined one of the more exceptional deposits in the history of Quebec. I believe it's the highest grade discovery in all of Quebec.
It's about 10 grams per ton, give or take.
Yeah, 9-10 grams. So he outlined 4.1 million ounces of measured indicated and another 3 million ounces over and above that. The deal with Gold Fields I thought was a spectacular deal. And, again, hats off to John and his team. They really did a great job. So it's about a $1.2 billion financing. With $600 million crossing over to the Osisko Mining side. And then it provides the backbone to build a 3,400 ton a day mine at Windfall, which is about a 4-hour drive north of Val-d'Or. So very much sort of mid-north, if you will, for the Quebec standards. Access to grid power, it's on the road. One of the more exceptional projects in the gold space, especially in North America.
Thank you. Now, as you say, Windfall's a standout asset in the gold space. You've had a standout asset before in the group, and I'm talking to the Canadian Malartic deposit in Quebec as well, in the Val-d'Or district. Now, that didn't necessarily turn out too good for the company. In 2014, you were the subject to a hostile takeover bid from Gold Fields, ultimately leading to the deal with Yamana and Agnico Eagle Mines. How has that experience conditioned how your approach to running companies and developing companies since then?
Well, it was an exceptional experience. We bought the project out of bankruptcy for $88,888 in 2004. We did mostly equity financings because nobody would give us debt. And we built a 590,000 ounce a year mine to start with, now 700,000 ounces a year mine. And then we got into the hostile with Gold Corp in 2014. Which ended up selling to Yamana and Agnico. Went from a $2.5 billion bid to closing on over $4 billion in total consideration to the shareholders. And in that, we spun out what is the most successful spinco, I believe, in the sector, Osisko Gold Royalties, which had a 5% royalty on the project and 4 other royalties on the other assets that we had in the company at the time. But we were not trying to sell that mine. It's the 9th largest gold mine in the world and has been the top gold producer in Canada 2 out of 3 years for the last 10 years. So we know that when we find these big assets that, there's a lot of capital intensity, a lot of dilution to shareholders if you go through the whole process. This was a one-off dilution to get to the end game of being in production and maintaining 50% of it. The thought pattern being that if you have 50% of Windfall right now, hopefully with the exploration development, that will double and you'll end up back basically with 100% of what you started with today, right? So it's about keeping more of the assets for our shareholders and having a fully funded outcome in a very seesaw market where you don't really know what the cost of equity capital or debt capital will be. It's also, this is a high cost interest rate environment that we're in. So this is by far the safest and best route for shareholder optimization that was available to the Windfall project. And I think that team has just really knocked it out of the park. And congratulations to Gold Fields for having the vision to do it.
Well, thank you. Obviously, the name Osisko Mining is a statement of intent. You want to be a producer. You want to build and operate mines.
Absolutely. So that that was the The idea was to bring it back. There are 5 things on the TSX called Osisko now, 2 on the New York Stock Exchange. So
very busy. Okay, so now that you have the joint venture agreement with Goldfields, what are the next steps for Windfall, and what can we expect to see over the next 6 to 12 months there?
Well, I'll let that management team speak to it, but essentially they're in the final push for the permitting and the construction and commissioning over the next 24, 36 months. They should be fairly far along in an effort to get to that first gold bar.
Okay, thank you. Now, you mentioned Osisko Gold Royalties and the origin story of Osisko Gold Royalties there. How has the company grown, and where do you see the company going to?
So I started as the CEO and chairman in 2014. The first time we got a bid for the company was 3 days after we started. So it's been a highly sought after asset. The royalty there is a 5% royalty on Canadian Malartic, and it's paid almost $500 million in revenue since we got it in 2014. It covers the bulk of the Canadian Malartic mine site, which produces somewhere between 650 and 700,000 ounces a year. So net about 35 to 40,000 ounces of zero cost gold to us. With that, we've been able to add to other royalties. We have 188 royalties in the royalty company now. 21 are producing, and we're on schedule to look for 100,000 GEOs this year. To put that in context, Royal Gold is the next largest royalty company. They're about 350,000 ounces, and took them 40 years to get there. We're at 100,000 already. So it's gone extremely well and fast. The market cap of the company is about just under 3 billion US right now, and about 3.5 billion Canadian. So it's gone exceptionally well.
You're the third or fourth largest royalty company?
I would say we're probably we're in a seesaw for fourth. But I think the quality of the asset base here with the big Canadian Malartic royalty and then significant growth pipeline. The pipeline I think is the important part, because we did a lot of asset acquisition in the first 7-8 years of the company, and now that pipeline is starting to bear fruit.
Excellent. Now, former CEO Sandeep Singh left quite unexpectedly, I think, for a lot of people at the start of this month. The independent directors unanimously voting, saying they need to change the CEO. What happened there?
Well, listen, this is a very fluid sector. There's a lot going on. I equate it to the NHL Hockey League. Sometimes there's a trade, and sometimes you're playing for the Montreal Canadiens. Sometimes you're playing for the Kings. So we wish Sandeep all the luck, and he's a smart fellow, and he's been around us a long time, and hopefully he goes on to do good things on the Osisko side. Very much focused on curating the asset pipeline that we have in place, and carrying on with the business plan that we put in place in 2020, which we sort of slowed down the acquisition line a bit and focused more on near-term production stories like CSA. And we just continuing on with the execution of that plan. So this is like the third year on that sort of change in plan, where we stepped away a little bit from the more aggressive growth assets and more into the traditional assets.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Now, also in the Osisko group is Osisko Development. Earlier this year, you published a feasibility study on the Caribou project in British Columbia, detailing a 160,000 year operation for 12 years, if I remember correctly. That had a after-tax IRR of more than 20%, but a payback of more than 5 years. What are you working on at the moment to try and improve that?
Well, it's about, it's a big land manage, and I see this as a mining camp. So this is mine one of what we believe will be 5 to 10 mines in the site. We only drilled this down to about 1,000 feet, or about 350 meters. We've tested the deposit down to 900 meters. And right now we're at 2 million ounces of reserves, another 1.5 million. So measured in any case, about 3.5 million ounces. And then there's another 1.7 million ounces in the inferred. So the goal will be to convert those other ounces into the mine plan, increase the output, and increase the grade as we get further into it. But we want to get started. The permits are underway right now. We're looking for the EIA here in the fall, and final construction releases hopefully sometime in Q1, Q2 next year. So this is really about getting started on what we believe is a mining camp, not just a mine. So this is, for me, this is phase one of many phases to come.
Okay, I'll take that as a cue to sort of, let's talk about capital markets. The Osisko Group, you've been very successful raising capital for a number of companies over a number of years. We're currently in a quite a challenging capital market environment for junior companies and developers. What's the sentiment you're picking up? Are you still getting good access to capital?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. We raised about $500 million in the last 24 months across ODV, and then within the royalty company, $250 million US. And then OSK's had really good access to capital, raising over a couple $100 million in that period. Plus now they've recently raised essentially a $1.2 billion project financing. So I think for good projects, there's always funding. We're certainly seeing a lot of activity from, the downtick equity market players, such as private equity royalty companies, and some of the corporates. So that flow is there, and we'll see when the next equity window opens up. But honestly, 2022 and 2023 in the early part of the year was pretty good. So we've been fortunate, and I so often say it's good to be lucky, and we try to make as much luck as we can.
Well, I think you're also being a little bit modest there, Sean, because money tends to flow to sort of good people that can deliver, and the Osisko Group has certainly done that over the years. Now, and
we thank everybody for that support, and we don't take any of it for granted.
Excellent. Now, as we've talked about, the Osisko Group is on the verge of building a couple of mines in Canada, either end of Canada. The Canadian government's really getting behind the critical metal story, making funding available and things like that. Do you see any sort of changes in facilitating permitting and the regulatory reform to support and advance and accelerate mine building?
Certainly we're seeing governments take it seriously. We're in the EA process in British Columbia. We're the first company through the new and improved EA process there. And I have to say it's been pretty much as they stated with legislative timelines. So we're encouraged by BC. We're obviously hometown in Quebec, and Quebec has always taken their mining seriously and been a good jurisdiction for permitting. We certainly have quite a bit of activity between Brunswick Mining and Osisko Development. We also have a lithium gold land package portfolio in Quebec. It's about 1,600 square kilometers. Within Osisko Royalties, we hold the ground that Patriot made the discovery on for the Corvette project was on our land, so we own a royalty on that. It's again back to making your own luck. We just happened to, we sold that project about 7 years ago and kept the royalty. So, those things are very nice found money. So,
I imagine so. Obviously, critical minerals are very much in the focus at the moment. Companies can raise money. There's a lot of interest there. Now, you've also began a SPAC called Osisko Green, SPAC's special purpose vehicle. What's the aim there, and how is that advancing?
So we're looking essentially at transition metals from copper all the way through to the more exotic stuff, nickel, lithium, and those things. We haven't announced a deal yet there, so we're still working on it. But within the group, we also have Osisko Metals, which now has Gaspé Copper in joint venture with Glencore at Eastern Quebec. We also have the Pine Point project in Northwest Territories that's now, sort of growing up, and it's got a deal. We've got a deal for $110 million with Appian. And then we have our big target in Utah, which is on the Osisko Development, which is the Tintic porphyry. We're very excited about that, and that's a polymetallic play that's a lot in the green metals as well, with a little bit of tellurium in our gold deposit there as well.
Okay. It is still a tough market for juniors and developers. What do you think is really weighing on the sector, and what will it take to get investors excited again?
Well, we need to deliver some success. We're a little bit stuck behind the big guys that that haven't really, the big miners haven't really seen a move in their equity prices. But there's kind of a bifurcation in the market between exploration, development, and producers right now, which there always is in every cycle. But we're seeing, you're seeing smart monies coming into those spaces now. We're seeing, the push towards green metals is starting to actually turn from rhetoric into action, which we think is good. And, that's one of the plays we're working on in Utah with Tintic. Ivanhoe Electric's drilling next to us down there, and I'm seeing Robert and I are going to be on the Living Legends panel here at 4:00. So we're out there, and he's seeing a lot of smart money go to him, and we've seen a lot of, sort of that smart money starting to move into stories like the ones that we generate, brownfield big targets, world-class targeting is our goal, and do no small thing being the mantra. And the shadow of the head frame is where you find the next mine kind of discussions in terms of exploration strategies. So I think that those are attracting money again, and there is a separation where exploration's been harder, greenfield's been harder. The lithium space has taken up a lot of wordplay. We're involved in it in a few ways. Brunswick Mining, one of our group companies, has got 500 lithium plays in it. Within ODV, we have our lithium portfolio in Quebec. And then we have a few, we got lucky, got the royalty on Corvette. So, we've been there. We also work with a company called Niobe, which has got niobium in James Bay. But I think the big play for us, the one that I think everybody should maybe have a look at, is we're about to drill this big target that Dick Silito generated for us in 2010 in Utah. Rigs on site, and everybody's chewing their fingers waiting to go. We're just waiting for the archaeological study to release. And hopefully by September, October, we should be at depth. And Robert and the Ivanhoe Electric guys are drilling just on our south border. So, it's an Ivanhoe Osisko kind of competition going on in Tintic right now, and I think it should be good fun.
Okay, you're kind of giving me a good lead into my sort of next question. What are going to be some of the sort of key milestones for the Osisko Group the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, obviously, we want to see if Dick Silito is right about the Bingham lookalike target that we're on there. We're down about 500 to 800 meters to the top of the carapace of the porphyry. Some complicated drilling to get there through some quartzites and some horse grabbing sort of environment. But we'll get it done, and if Robert and his crew hit on the south of us, I think things are going to heat up there pretty well. Sort of milestoning on Caribou and the gold side. EAs are a big thing these days, and a lot of finance guys will tell you there are only two types of projects right now: the ones with a permit and all the other ones.
Yeah.
So, that's been a challenge in the space. I think it's shareholders have been discouraged by this failure of permitting, length of time to money. So hopefully we get some wins on the board and clear the racetrack from and get on with it. And I think that the recognition of the mining sector and its importance to the transition to clean energy is finally sinking in. That means that we have to build mines. So I think we're right at the sort of the beginning of that transition right now, and I think it gets a lot more interesting from here on in.
Okay. Finally, Sean, you're on the Living Legends panel. You mentioned that's later on today. What does it feel like to be named a living legend or considered a living legend?
I think it's far better than being on the Not Living Legends panel. Listen, it's very humbling. I mean, this industry has given me a lot, and I don't take anything for granted, and we just want to work hard and make our shareholders money. And for those people who take the risk to come with us, they need to get rewarded. And we appreciate all the support that we've had, and give us a call if there's anything you got for ideas to recommend how we can do a better job. But it's very very nice to get the recognition, and we'll stay humble and drill deep.
Well, congratulations on that, Sean Roosen. Thank you very much for joining us today.
All the best, Paul. Thank you very much. Good luck with your investments, everybody. It's a tough sector, but there's an awful lot of reward.
Thank you. And stay tuned to Kitco Mining for more from the Rural Symposium in Boca Raton in Florida.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Rural Symposium, Natural Resource Investing, is brought to you by G Mining Ventures.